Hello, and welcome to this episode of PMC Studio, the interview show for Portland Media Center's Studio Workshop. I am Genius Black, your host for this episode. You might recognize me from Political Brew or from the Maine's Black Future podcast. Each episode of PMC Studio is an interview with someone doing interesting things in the greater Portland community, while people who want to learn how to use our studio and its equipment get experience taping this show. Today, we are interviewing Cynthia Zubrit, an employee here at Portland Media Center. So, how are you doing today, Cindy?
Very good. How are you, Genius?
Doing all right, having a good day.
That's good.
I think we'll just jump right into questions. The first thing I want to ask is, can you tell us something about yourself, such as what brought you into Portland Media Center?
Well, what brought me into Portland Media Center? A friend that I met at school at SMCC told me about this place, and so I came down and I wanted to get more involved. And so I started volunteering, helping out on shoots, and then some of them turned into paid shoots. And there was Sopatios, Lighthouse, Jubilees. There was another one, USM Update.
Okay.
I volunteered on my friend's show. I can't remember the name of it, it's been so long now, but he did a show here.
Okay.
And just, you know, sometimes the Alliance for Community Media would have their annual conference here, the New England chapter, and so I remember volunteering for that. So I've been in and out of PMC for like 10 years, helping out.
Okay, so kind of some of those are classic shows that we've had for quite some time, but it makes me curious, what got you started in media production more generally?
To be honest with you, I was having a midlife crisis. You know, I had gone through this traumatic relationship here in Portland, and it was pretty crazy. Maybe it's been like 20 years now since that happened. And it was not good. I ended up moving in the middle of a really bad nor'easter from a third story apartment in downtown Portland. And the whole thing was really crazy, but I tried to make something good come out of it, and I was determined. I asked myself, like, what's wrong? What am I doing wrong here? You know, what's not working for me?
Absolutely.
And I always wanted to go back to college. I had a short stint at Mass College of Art in Boston back in the late 80s. And so I decided to go back to school. And I took some college prep classes because it had been a long time since I had been in school. And I started going back to school at York County Community College and pursuing an associate's in digital media. And then I took a break for a while, and I ended up here at SMCC, and I finished up my associate's degrees there. So I have an associate's in liberal studies and one in audio and video production, or communications degree. So that's what got me into media. And I was going to do photography, but then it seemed like photographers were a dime a dozen, or at least where I was living. Yeah. And so I didn't know that many people doing video, and so I gravitated towards that and decided to do that instead. I figured there'd be less competition. So, yeah, I mean, it was, I kind of was taking lemons and turning them into lemonade, I guess. And I think the other reason I chose going into video was because it just seemed exciting, and I'd always be meeting interesting people, and that's exactly what happened. We had George Mitchell in here. Oh God, so many. We had the mayor in here the other day. That was a great interview. all kinds of people and that I get to meet, and it keeps me informed of what's going on in politics too, which is like super important.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I love how you know, something changed in life. Sounds like something needed to change. You did some education. And I love how you focused on the people you meet through media, because media isn't just about cameras and editing. It absolutely is about the people. And that's part of why we're talking here.
Yeah.
And as a staff member here at Portland Media Center, can you tell us, me and the audience, a little bit about your role and the actual tasks that you perform in your role?
Well, they recently hired me part-time to schedule the programming on
What
Channel.
does that mean, schedule the programming?
Well, for cable TV, on Channel 5, we play out here in Portland, Maine. And also what plays out on TV also plays out on our website. So I get to watch a lot of shows. I get to pick and choose what shows are going to play out on TV. And it's really interesting, and I get to watch all these interesting shows that I wouldn't normally know about. And I try to keep the programming diverse for a diverse audience, because we're very multicultural here in Portland. And yeah, I guess you could say I get paid to watch TV, which is kind of a cool thing. Even if I don't get to watch the whole show, I get an idea of what it's about.
And then you're actually like setting it up to play? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, I receive the shows from individuals, or I go search for them, or some are shows that we've already been playing. I download the files, the video file, then I upload it to our server, and I add in the metadata and all that, and then I drag and drop it into the schedule. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That's what putting it on TV.
Right.
Okay, so I have another question. Do you have any other media experience outside of Portland Media Center?
Oh, wow. Yes. Well, I also work for the town of Falmouth just a couple nights a week. Sometimes my boss over there gives me an extra meeting to do. So I do the planning meeting and the zoning appeals board just a couple times a month. But next month I have an extra meeting. It's budget season.
Yeah, it is everywhere.
And so I have that. And I also started out a long time ago, back in the 90s, that must be like 30 years now. Oh God, I'm showing my age. Oh well,
Yeah.
I am what I am.
Absolutely.
I helped out, at the beginning, they were starting a community radio station in Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And I can't even remember the call letters now. But anyways, I started out there helping them out. I did a benefit for them. I had a couple of shows. One was like Middle Eastern music, which I was fascinated with at the time. And the other one was just sort of like a crazy, weird, sort of Dr. Demento kind of show, weird songs, and there was some rock stuff. It was like all over the board. So I did that, and I did some fundraising for them. And I sometimes would guest on other shows. So I did that community radio thing, sort of like MPG that you have here in Portland for a while.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm sure I've done other things. And I also worked at another public access station here in Maine for like 10 years, and I did the programming there as well. And I, shot video for them and did lots and lots of municipal meetings. And I have to say, to be honest with you, this is more fun.
Yeah.
I really like it here at PMC. Yeah.
Right on. Shout out PMC.
Yeah, we love PMC.
So I have a question. Well, just to go a little bit further. And this is something that I think has been on a lot of people's minds. It's certainly been on my mind, right now, 2025. Why is it important to create media in our community?
That is a really important question. I think what's going on, especially now in politics, it's really important for people to have a voice. And I just feel like our democracy is been slowly eroding over time. And I think it's, PMC gives people a voice to say what they want to say politically and in the community and what's going on in the community, and to stand up for themselves. And now's the time to do it. I see so many issues in Portland now that I'm coming into the city more on a day-to-day basis. I see, I'm more aware of the homeless population. I knew it existed, but it's different to be confronted with that every single day as opposed to hearing about it on the news or reading about it in the newspaper or online. There's so many important issues in this area that need to be addressed, with homelessness and the money, what's going on in the federal government. And, as far as the budget cuts, it's really scary. And, I wonder, what's going to happen to the seniors that count on their Social Security and food stamps, and, poor families or immigrants that are coming in and they're counting on these benefits. And the arts, like us, what's going to happen to our funding if they, cut arts spending in the federal government? It's going to trickle down to every state, all of that.
Exactly.
Everyone's going to be affected. So public access is super important. It's like the last bastion of free speech for people to be heard.
No, right on. I do think media is so important right now.
Yeah.
And, thinking about Portland Media Center, there's some things shifting and things afoot. What's coming up, what's new, or what's coming up that you're excited about at Portland Media Center?
Wow, there's a bunch of things. I guess Luigi Scarcelli, and I apologize to Luigi if I'm saying this wrong, if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. In Warren, they're doing a whole bunch of shows. Friday PM, they're going to have a whole bunch of new episodes come up. Saturday Night Special. I think they're going to revive something they did called Date Night. Ask Christina Anything. And I think there was a couple other shows, I can't exactly remember what they are.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. One of our volunteers, our new volunteers, he's doing the social media for us. He's helping out with the social media. Carice, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Carice. He showed me something he shot on volunteer night, and like a little piece he put together, like a little promo for that, and it was like really good. Yeah, he's
Carice
like
has got some skills.
Yeah, he does. Like he knows After Effects, and I mean he knows more stuff than I do. So
Takes a village,
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
he's really, it's just, it's exciting to see people, volunteers come in with these skills, and then they can help other people too. I do want to say that we take in people of all different skill levels. It's not just people that are really good, but people that are starting from square one and want to learn this stuff. We're happy to help them as well. And it's just, I think, there's another gentleman, Israel. He was very excited to get involved. And I know Brendan, who's sitting in the control room right now, helped him out. He put editing program on his laptop for him to get him going. And so we do our best to help those out in the community who also want to create media. And we should be very proud of that.
I couldn't agree more. I love the approach of welcoming beginners, as well as creating a place where folks can have a warm landing that are skilled and have been doing all types of stuff, because there's a place for a lot of different people here.
Yeah. And you've created some great pieces as well, and I'm hoping that you'll share more with me in the future that I can put out on TV and on the website.
Absolutely. I plan on doing that, and I'm also excited about just newer people and volunteers coming around, because there's more people to help support and get projects done. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. I'm sure I could think of some other things too, but you might have to give me a minute about that. I know there's been a lot going on here. There's been a lot of changes. They're about to hire a new director.
Yes.
So we'll get some fresh blood in here, and
Well, I think that's good
with
enough.
some new ideas. you know?
Yeah. We love new ideas. So what we're going to do is take a quick break, but thank you so far, and we're going to continue shortly.
Okay, all right, will do.
Okay, I'm back chatting with Cynthia. And a question I have for you, talk to me a little bit about things that you like about the city of Portland in general.
Wow, Portland. They have like fabulous restaurants here. And I've been dating somebody recently, and he likes to go to different places all the time. And he likes all kinds of food, especially spicy food. I'm not so much into like hot food, but he likes the hot food. Yeah. I can do spicy, but not hot. And so that just amazes me. Now I get to go to all these cool restaurants and try all these different drinks and things like that. The other thing is the diversity here. There's all kinds of different people here. The scenery, I mean, it's so picturesque. We live on the ocean, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people are stuck in the middle of the country, and they come out here, and it's such an anomaly for them, you know. And we take it for granted, I think, but it is really beautiful. And we have those gorgeous lighthouses, and they're right down the street from me. And I don't know what else to say. The music scene here, you know, I haven't been that involved lately. Since I've been doing video, I've just been too busy, but there definitely is a scene here. And there is talent here. And I know Luigi has some of that talent on his show, and you know, I was watching him, like, you know, I'm watching this guy and this woman, and I'm like, these people are amazing. They're so talented. I mean, why aren't they like really huge? You know, and maybe that's because they're here in Portland and not LA. I don't know, but
Portland does have it. The arts are popping here.
Yeah, and you know, photographers, painters. All kinds of media people, so we do have that going on.
No, I love those things about Portland. It makes me happy to hear you talk about it. I have heard that you have some interest some unusual interest outside of work. And so I'm curious if you want to chat with us a little bit about those things. I'm not calling you unusual. I just want to know.
Well, I've been called that too.
You know.
Yeah, we can talk about that. People have known me to be into the paranormal. Sometimes I can be a little bit like a paranormal encyclopedia of knowledge. But I can't say that I am. There are people that know much more than I do. And actually, you know, my belief is that the paranormal is actually normal. It's just a lot of people don't know about it. And it, you know, I think it's going to be a matter of time, probably a long time, before people accept it as an alternative reality. But it is a reality in and of itself. What I'm more interested in, I'm not so much into ghost hunting, although I think that's cool and everything. But I'm more into like ufology, which is the study of UFOs. And the afterlife, I'm probably even more interested in, and spirituality. I guess probably a more technical term for that would be consciousness studies, and the study of the afterlife and the continuation of consciousness after death. So that's just my personal thing that I'm into, and I read tons of books on it. Right now I'm reading a book called Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard, and he actually lived here in Portland, Maine area, and he's written a bunch of books since then. But absolutely fascinating book, because he, you know, a lot of the things that happen in there happened like right here.
That's cool.
Another book, or I should say, a set of books that I like is by another gentleman similar to Gary Renard. His name is Neil Donald Walsh, and he wrote like 3 books called Conversations with God, Parts 1, 2, and 3. And this was back in the 90s, and they became New York Times bestseller.
I've at least heard of those,
Yeah, similar in some respects, but different. I think Gary's books are based on something called A Course in Miracles. And that's a whole other thing, which I haven't even read yet or have gotten into, but it's an alternative way of thinking about our reality. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I won't get into it too much because, a lot of people would probably disagree, but there's a lot of good in both of those books that you can learn about. And they're more along the lines of spirituality as opposed to religion. But I read a lot of books on NDEs, near-death experiences. I went to go see an acquaintance from church, the church I belong to, which is the Spiritualist Church. Went to go see this woman just this past weekend over in hospice. And I had thought about maybe as a side job becoming a hospice worker or a hospice nurse or something like that, just because I have such an interest in the afterlife. And so I thought I probably would be a shoo-in for a job like that, right?
I don't know.
It's probably something you don't normally think about, right? Because you're young, you don't really start thinking about your inevitable demise until you're like older.
I actually do think about that. I just don't know if that makes you a good hospice worker, to be clear, is what I was saying, that you believe in the afterlife or are curious about it. I think sometimes about death, probably I think more than people my age, but I don't know. I think about the beginning of life and the end of life sometimes, kind of that cycle. So that's what I find so intriguing. You're following consciousness from this world to the next.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
And kind of intriguing.
Yeah, and I have good reason to believe, and I believe in the science of it. There's people doing research into it, and I think that there definitely is some science behind it. If you start bringing in quantum physics and all that, and people's near-death experiences, that have experienced things when they've been on the brink of not making it, and they bring them back, and they're like, "Holy cow, I went somewhere else."
Also, the consistency with the stories that you hear when they come back is also super intriguing to me. So I'm curious if I could ask, what got you kind of interested in supernatural or the paranormal?
Wow, that is a loaded question. I think I always had an interest in it, but I never had time to pursue it until I went back to college. And so I didn't have to work full time all the time anymore to survive. So I had a little bit of time to start looking into this. And there were also some weird things that happened to me when I was younger. I think I had a dream about my father's death before he died. But it was so long ago, I'm not 100% sure. We're talking like the mid 1960s. It's a long time ago. But I'm pretty sure I had this dream, and then in reality it came to pass exactly like it did in the dream. I won't get into the dream; it's rather complicated. But I've had weird dreams, like about my guardian angel, and that were just too, almost too good to be true. And I became psychic as a child. I had some psychic ability. I remember playing cards with my schoolmates. They take a deck of cards, and they'd be like, "All right, guess which card I'm going to turn up." And I would guess the cards correctly, and they'd be like, it kind of scared them. Like, "How did you do that?" And I'm like, "Just concentrate." And I was better at it when I was younger, not so much now. They say, you have to work at your psychic ability. Some people are gifted, but some people have to work at it a bit, and I think I'm one of those, and I've sort of let it lapse. I haven't really been exercising that muscle, so. But still, every once in a while, something weird happens, what's going to happen before it happens, or I can pick a winning lottery ticket or something like that. I will be totally convinced once I pick all the Powerball numbers and I get them right. Then I'll be totally convinced to my psychic ability.
And you'll have a bunch of money too.
Right, I'll have a bunch of money too. I can do whatever I want, right?
That's what I'm going to be convinced to, y'all, when I win the Powerball. No, I love that. But it does make me think about the kind of antennas that we have and zoning in, tuning into certain frequencies. And you're right, maybe you don't have a strong ability, but it doesn't mean it went away completely. I mean, I do believe in stuff like that. And if people don't, that's okay too, but.
And I think everybody has it. It's just people don't use it. And I think it has a lot to do with your personal belief system. Like, I think that some people see UFOs because they're looking for them and they really believe in them. But if you're just totally shut down to the subject matter, you're a non-believer, you're a skeptic, you're gonna have less paranormal things happen in your life. Yeah. There's that.
That makes sense to me. I'm curious how your interest in the paranormal, especially like over the time, does it influence the movies you watch or the type of podcasts you listen to, stuff like that for media?
Absolutely. I'm a Coast to Coast AM addict, so I have a subscription to Coast AM. And I listen to that because I don't have to pay attention as much. Like, I can be doing the dishes or my laundry or something mundane and have it on in the background. So I'd say, I learn a lot from that show. It's like a one-stop shop for everything paranormal. I'm trying to think what else. Lately, there's a series that this guy, George Knapp, is on. I think it's called Investigation Alien. It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix series. And so he's doing that. George Knapp, by the way, he's a seasoned investigative reporter from Las Vegas. And he works for, I think, CBS or NBC, one of those, major affiliate. He does like crime investigation too, but he also is an occasional host on Coast to Coast once a month. And he's knows a lot about paranormal stuff as well.
Got it.
I'm trying to think what else. Movies, I do watch movies, but we might have to come back to that one, but not as much, just because I don't have the time so much, but I do love movies.
Absolutely. I hear that.
Yeah.
I definitely have switched to more audiobooks in my life than like physical paper books, because I can listen while I'm kind of moving through space and still pay attention, but I don't have to sit and stare at a book, so I understand how those things shift over time.
And I do read a lot of books. And I think actually the best information is in books. So I do read a lot of books on the afterlife and UFO stuff.
And it's interesting when you bring up these topics. I mean, obviously a lot of people, you start talking about the supernatural, paranormal, their mind, of course, goes all to fiction. But I'm curious, in your endeavors in the books, do you prefer fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction, absolutely.
I'm not surprised by that, but yeah.
Very rarely do I read fiction, but every once in a while I'll throw something like that in.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. So for you, it's kind of about digging around, like what people really think, what's really there, what data is available, what people have extrapolated from it in real life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to listen to other people's opinions, and I respect other people's opinions on the subject matter. I would never try to convince anybody to believe something that I believe. It's like, whatever you want to believe, is whatever religion you believe in, that's cool, as long as nobody's getting hurt. That's my philosophy in life. Believe what you want to believe, do what you want to do, as long as nobody's getting hurt.
No, I hear that. Another thing that comes to mind for me, because I also like a lot of nonfiction, and when I was younger I read some nonfiction, not so much, but I will say movies, short stories, books, even if it's fiction, but it's really like kind of peppered and salted, or I guess seasoned with real facts and research, and when it's so believable that I can suspend my disbelief and be like pulled into that fake world, but
Yeah,
it feels
yeah,
real
yeah.
because,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They didn't just hit me with the flying dragon right at the beginning. It's like, you know,
Right.
there's really a lot of fact or research that goes into it. So for me, like some of the historical fiction, I love stuff like that.
Yeah,
Because it
yeah.
does, it kind of blurs the lines, but in a realistic way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it made me think about that in terms of my personal preference.
Yes.
So yeah, we're gonna take a second to wrap up here. I'm just gonna, again, thank you. I
Oh.
appreciate learning more about you.
All right. Well, it's good to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Gina says always.
Thank you, Cynthia. That is it for this edition of Portland Media Center Studio, or PMC Studio as we call it. We are proud of our brave studio workshop participants who have been operating the cameras and directing the show with little or no prior experience. If you've seen anything that looked off, that's because they are just learning. And so can you. Just visit our website, portlandmedia.org, and choose workshops on the Get Involved drop-down menu at the top of our homepage. Also, if you would like to appear as a guest or would like to interview someone for a future workshop show, please contact PMC at portlandmedia.org or Brendan at portlandmedia.org, and that's BRENDON, Brendan at portlandmedia.org, or Cindy, CINDY, at portlandmedia.org, and let us know. I'd like to thank our guest again, Cynthia Zubrit, for joining us and chatting today. And thank everybody for watching, and until next time, I'm Genius. Peace.